test a whole bunch of different methods in which we can increase the speed of transferring loot or items from one container to the other. The most simple setup is already shown: storage adapter, pipe, conveyor, storage adapter. I'm going to show some slides on how we're going to test multiple setups. Going to be 20 experiments all in all. And to time the different settings, we've got a filter pass and a filter fail, which runs to our stopwatch. The stopwatch is going to start counting in seconds, more or less, when the first filter pass comes through, which might be a couple of seconds after the first loot is transferred, but that's okay. It's going to get a start signal, start counting, and over there we get our seconds. Once the filter fail signal comes through, our stopwatch is going to stop, and we get a total time to transfer all the loot from this container to the other, which is empty at the moment. Let me first clear this line. The different configurations we're going to test today are as follows. Firstly, the most simple setup, 4 different conveyors, each running with their own storage adapter to the next container. Only 3 shown over here, but we're going to test 4 in total. This one everybody knows, but it's fairly expensive because it uses 4 different or multiple different conveyors. For our second experiment, we're going to test the daisy chain. It's possible to attach up to 4 different storage adapters onto a single large box, and this does also increase the speed. I want to compare if this speed is the same as using multiple different conveyors. In our third experiment, we're going to do the same, but using an industrial combiner. I want to see if the combiner changes the speed or the number of storage adapters. For our fourth experiment, we're going to use multiple conveyors, but with a single storage adapter, just to see what the difference is. Lastly, we're going to use a method which is called feedback. I've seen this somewhere. Apparently, using an industrial combiner and a splitter which feed back into itself, you can also improve the speed of transfer. We'll test it out. Our first experiment is going to be quite simple, just the standard base conveyor system with 1 conveyor, just to get a baseline number. Let me switch on the conveyor system, switch on this conveyor, and in a few seconds we should see some items coming in. There we go. As you can see, our stopwatch has started counting. This is going to take quite a while, so I'll speed up this portion so I don't have to wait for all the results. Finally, it's transferring what felt like an eternity. You can see that this took 243 seconds to transfer. Let's do the same, but now I'm going to add a second pipe. .136, quite a bit faster. I'm going to write that on this graph here. And again. much quicker. Let's see what the time is. 72. Let's write that down. 72. That's of course for a fourth industrial conveyor. Let's do some math and see how much that is quicker. So there we have the results of our first experiment. Using a single conveyor takes 243 seconds. We'll call that one time. Let me just get my laser pointer here. That's one time speed. Using a second conveyor, 136 seconds, gives us a factor of 1.8. We would have expected 2 times, but I understand that there might be some measurement errors. The filter pass and the filter fail doesn't start immediately once the conveyor gets going. That could be an influence. Adding a third conveyor, 93 seconds, 2.6 times. I would have expected 3 times. And adding a fourth conveyor, 72 seconds, gives us 3.3 times the speed of a single conveyor. Interesting. For our second experiment, we're going to use different storage adapters with a single conveyor. Something to that effect. Let me get cracking on wiping this up. Two storage adapters, and our time is 135 seconds. Well, there we have it. Almost exactly the same results by using different storage adapters as opposed to using different industrial conveyors. Much less expensive and easier to pipe, giving the same results to increase the speed. Let's move on to the next experiment. So there we go. Using a combiner and seeing if it makes any difference in the speed. Well, there you have it. Using combiners gives exactly the same result. Nou moet ek weer begin. That's okay. Okay. Feed going into a splitter, conveyor, and then a combiner. First experiment, 266 seconds. Let's add another pipe, another conveyor, see what happens. There we go. So there we have it, almost exactly the same as the previous experiments, similar results. The interesting thing about this configuration is we can duplicate these 3 conveyors onto each of these 4 adapters, and that should make a massive difference. I'm not going to add the 4th in this experiment. It's clear that we're having the same results. Adding a 4th would require a second splitter and a second combiner. I'm not going to do that now. Let's move on to the last experiment and see what that does. This configuration has been called a loopback or a feedback, and the idea is that the splitter feeds a line back into the combiner, and somehow that gives the conveyor that there are multiple streams coming through. It's supposed to work. Let's see if it does. That's supposed to be a feedback loop, and let's see if it makes a difference. Okay, 266 seconds, exactly the same as the previous experiment. this feedback loop clearly doesn't work. So as a final bonus, I want to see if we can duplicate this 4 times, in other words have 12 conveyors, and see what that gives us in terms of speed. Let's build. So there we have it. As far as I can tell, this is the fastest. So there we have it. As far as I can tell, this is the fastest way that you can transfer loot from one container to the other. You can of course add multiples of these, but this becomes unpractical. This setup uses 3 conveyors on each of the 4 adapters. Let's see what happens. Last check, empty, stopwatch reset, and go. They're all running. And this one, I'm not going to speed up. Yep, that makes a difference. Wow. It's very fast. Done. Look, 22 seconds. Let's do a quick calculation. 22 seconds. Previous was 266. That is 12 times faster. And of course we have 12 conveyors, which makes sense.